Today we're doing Will's team reveal, and to be honest with you, he should be introducing the video because you probably know him better than you know me by now. Will, welcome. You're here to build your team and show us what your team is looking like at this stage. We have to make it known to people you're coming back with your official entry to the My Team Rating series next week with your final draft, but this is just where your head's at the minute.
Yeah, thanks, John. It's brilliant to be back on here. Like, I've really enjoyed the quality of the video, you being host, seeing the ridiculous quality of the guests. I think the thing that I'm most impressed by, though, is how good your language has been. Like, I haven't heard a single swear word.
I've gone all corporate. Yeah. I don't know. Am I allowed to? That's when you can clarify for the viewer. Am I allowed to say bad words?
The occasional one, although we try to be family friendly.
I suppose like if I save them up, I can say it whenever it really is needed or just to emphasize something. But I have been very clean. Didn't think of that. So what we're doing today is we're going to build it from back to front. We're going to build your current draft. Now, I haven't seen this, so I'm excited. I could probably pick half the team based on the template, but I don't know what type of player you are in FPL. Maybe you're ballsy and aggressive. This season might allow for that a bit more than others, or maybe you're going Mr. Template.
I've been trying to keep a little bit away from Twitter and all the rest of it, but it is sort of seeping in, and I've been watching the My Team series very closely and seeing all the teams, and I think I have been swayed a little bit, but there are some different picks in there to a certain degree, and there's some popular picks that I certainly haven't gone for. So maybe as a percentage, I don't know, 60, 70, 80, but I'll let the viewers decide. Give me a percentage templateness in the comments below.
That's the one. There we go. Give us the percentage templateness in the comments, if that's even a word. A question I'll ask you as well, just with all your FPL experience, like at this point in the season with people going in, how important do you think it is to kind of follow the crowd and sort of blend in? And even if you kind of want to go more aggressive, is it important to go for those highly owned players? Or on a season like this where the early wild card looks viable, is it maybe better to go a bit bold? What's your kind of take on that from seasons gone past?
Yeah, to be honest, I try my hardest to completely ignore ownership, actually. I know that, there's definitely a way of playing where you take ownership into account and you try and minimize your risk, and I can understand that strategy. But for me, what I always try and do with every decision is maximize points potential. So if that's with, if I think the team that is, the most template is going to score the most points, then that's the team I'll go for. If I think a completely differential team is going to get the most points, then that's the one I'll go for. I try, although it is difficult to completely block out the percentage ownerships and the rest of it, I will try to, just go for the team which I think will maximize the FPL points that I can get throughout the season, because the most points you can end up with at the end of the season, the better your rank. So I try and keep it simple and think of it that way.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how many XG you have, it matters how many goals you've got. Exactly. It doesn't matter how many people own the player, it matters how many points they get. So that's ultimately what will win you your mini league. And Will, before we start building this, do you want to let people know about the offer about winning mini leagues?
I do, yeah. So we have a pretty ridiculous offer, to be honest. So if you sign up for Fantasy Football Hub and you're a new member and you use our product, if you don't win your mini league, we will refund you that subscription. Obviously, terms and conditions apply, so make sure you check those out before signing up. But yeah, it is a ridiculously good offer. Plus, as you well know, John, the 50% off currently we have. That's a very, very time-limited deal. So if you are interested, then please do sign up using the link below.
Let's start with your goalkeeper.
Yeah, I've gone for Ramsdale in goal here. Great fixtures, I'm kind of basing my team around the first 5 game weeks, really, and then I'll probably look to wildcard. Obviously, I'm not sort of booking in a wildcard, but I think 5 fixtures is a good place to start. And Arsenal have got some great opening fixtures. I would say they're probably a little bit better defensively, the opening fixtures, than they are sort of offensively. But yeah, I think Ramsdale, he kind of didn't have a great end to the season. But, if you look at the whole of last season, I think he'll be going for, that England call-up and all the rest of it. Arsenal, very, very solid defensive team. Ramsdale was second only to Alisson, I think, last season on bonus. I see a lot of people going for Mendy. Mendy hasn't even come into my thought process at all. Didn't get I think he got 3 bonus points for the whole of last season. Lower points per game than Ramsdale. Chelsea defence seems a little bit in flux at the moment. So for me, Ramsdale over Mendy is a definite. I also like Sarr for that position and potentially could go the 4.5. So currently Ramsdale, but it could change.
Yeah, no, I like that logic. I think Arsenal look great, and a lot of people are picking a lot of their players. Ramsdale is a keeper who we haven't seen too much of, and it is interesting how I kind of thought when I started making this content, I was like, oh, we have a long time to go until the first game week. It's going to be very static. But Mendy was the pick of the bunch not 2 weeks ago, and all of a sudden, based on pre-season, based on the disarray at Chelsea's back line, and whenever you actually go and crunch the numbers on last season, he's kind of fallen into, not many people are putting him in their drafts anymore, whenever he was in every draft 2 weeks ago. So it's really interesting how drafts evolve in the build-up to game week 1. Who are you going to stick in that second slot?
Pretty much any 4.0. You can pick one for me.
Let's pick a fun name. I don't even know. I won't pick like a Liverpool or a City one. That's the tip we keep giving everyone. Don't pick a player from a team you're likely to triple up on. Let's go for not particularly a fun name, but Gazaniga at Fulham. You're not going to use him.
Sounds good.
On to defence. Who is your first pick?
So I'll start with the ones that are pretty much locked in. That's Trent. I don't really think we need to talk about him. He's in pretty much every serious draft that I've seen. He's a points machine. So yeah, not too much to say further on him really. The next one for me is, to be honest, another no-brainer, possibly even more nailed on in my team than Trent, if that's possible, and that's Cancelo. Just so many points, so many point scoring routes. According to the expected data, he should have had a better points per game than Trent. So very, very impressive FPL pick. Manchester City are going to be rock solid in defence again. He's going to be attacking again. He looks as pretty much as nailed on as he can in the City back line. So yeah, for me, he's another complete lock in the defensive lineup.
I think that's completely fair. I've seen a few rumours around and people sort of saying, "Oh, if Man City send a left back, don't know about Cancelo's minutes." For me, I think he's just locked. It doesn't matter. Pep will find a place for him. He's too good.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, he's got the advantage of you can play left back, you can play right back, he could even come into midfield, although I think that's unlikely. But yeah, I think that Pep will find a place for him in the squad for sure.
The next one?
Next one is Robertson. Not a great surprise here. For me, this is an area which I'm really unsure on, though, whether to go Robertson or Diaz as my third Liverpool slot. You can probably guess who the other one is that I haven't mentioned. But yeah, both of those are, I mean, if I could pick 5 Liverpool players, I probably would, to be honest with you. I think that there's there's just so many good options in that side. But currently gone for Robertson just because, I think a little bit of saving over Diaz, and I think they're going to end up with similar points if I had to guess. But yeah, I think Diaz is a fantastic option as well, and could do extremely well. So he's been in a few of my drafts as well.
Yeah, I'd be going Robertson over Diaz myself as well. I just think he's such a proven FPL asset, and the value there, you're saving the million. But Diaz is obviously a really exciting option, even just doubling up on the midfield there in Liverpool. Don't know what it is. It just kind of scares me with Diaz because I feel like there will be rotation, albeit Jota is injured, so he's pretty nailed going into the start of the season, you'd imagine. But I think for me, I much prefer Robertson personally. That might just be some bias of times going by, but who's the fourth slot in defence?
I've gone for Reece James. Again, it's a slot I'm not 100% set on, and a couple of reasons for that. One is, the fact Chelsea's defence is a little bit unsettled, but, Reece James, his numbers from last season in terms of just the attacking outlet, I think if he was a 6 million midfielder, you'd probably consider him, wouldn't you? So yeah, he seemed like a fantastic pick. Him versus Chilwell is another debate that's going on in my mind. I think just the lack of preseason minutes from Chilwell has me slightly worried, but got to look at preseason. If Chilwell's playing, then I think he's going to be another great option. His numbers last season were a little bit better than James actually in terms of the expected data, which is a number I tend to look at quite a bit. Would say that Chilwell obviously played fewer games last season, so there's a smaller sample size. So that's kind of why I'm edging towards James at the moment. But could easily switch to Chilwell on that one.
So you've mentioned Chilwell. If we take the likes of Perisic out of the equation because he's pretty template as well, are there any defenders that are a little bit more out there that's interesting? Yeah, these floor / Chilwell and an enabler or whoever this fifth pick's going to be?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So that's actually a lot. Any Manchester City defender, Diaz, Walker, I like. Zinchenko's interesting. He's moved to Arsenal. Don't like his attacking threat that much, but 5 million potentially playing in midfield is interesting. Kieran Trippier is one that I've been looking at. I think he's could do very, very well. Offers a lot of goal threat for that. If you go with Trippier in a 4.5, you can get some really good rotations. I'll try and remember to put in the comments what that is. But there's some good rotations with Trippier. There's also some interesting 4.5 rotations, which I've been looking at. But at the moment, I'm pretty much set on Trent, Cancelo, and one of James or Chilwell and Robertson. Potentially could downgrade Robertson to Trippier is currently my flavour of the week. But it's certainly not set in that position.
It's a funny one, because everyone's kind of going big at the back. And I'd say, the 4 players you've picked outside Ramsdale are the 4 ones that I have on my team and that most people have in their teams. But you've just mentioned a load of other viable options if people decide to want to spend their money further up the pitch. But I just think the value in defence is making it so hard this year for variance in the defence. Maybe where we're going to set ourselves apart is ballsy picks in midfield or up top. But even up top, it's kind of a 2-horse race in midfield. The most premium slots locked in many teams. So it is, I don't know, compared to seasons gone by, there's a lot of decisions I feel have already been made for us. But who is going to be your 5th defender?
So gone for Nico Williams. So going for 4 at the back. I think, I don't need to talk too much about Nico Williams. Lots of people are going for him for obvious reasons. I think he is the best 4.0 option.
Brilliant. Nico Williams in. Who is your first midfielder? Will we get the boring one out of the way?
Yeah, Mo Salah. I think that he's, a little bit of a no-brainer, to be honest. Yeah, just don't overthink him. I've seen a few drafts without him in there, and it looks pretty decent. I'm not going to lie. You say a bit of budget, but he's been the top performer in FPL asset over the last 3 seasons. You don't need to think too much about that one.
Yeah, no. Whenever I see the drafts without Salah, I kind of look at it and it's like looking at a fry without a sausage. There's just something missing. Do you know what it is? Yeah. There's just something wrong, and then you finally cotton on what it is, and you're disappointed. So yeah, going without Salah be rough going. Although I do personally absolutely love De Bruyne this season, and I think he's going to smash it. I wish there was a way I could get him in my team, but I can't give up Salah personally, and I can't give up Kane, and I do want all those defenders because I think they're such good value. So it's just one of those where it's like, I'd love to have you, lad, but it's going to be hard. Who is your second mid?
Second mid, I've gone for an 8 million midfielder, and this is one of the positions which I'm really, really not sure on. I've been flittering about between various different players. Currently on Maddison, actually. I think that he's had some really interesting pre-season. The comments from Rodgers have been very, very positive. Player that takes a lot of shots, creates a lot of chances. Leicester's opening fixtures look pretty decent, and I think that he's going to be trying to get into that England team, and I think he's going to start the season well. Having said that, there are lots of really good picks from in this area. Obviously Diaz, if I don't go Robertson. Also been looking very, very closely at Foden, been looking very, very closely at Mahrez. If either of those look like they're pretty nailed on, and I think that one of them will be.
But one I'd throw at you is, does Grealish interest you for the million saving?
Yeah, I've been looking at Grealish as well, to be honest. He looks like a really good pick, and you've got to think with Jesus going over to Arsenal, there's going to be a little bit more time for his pitch time, as well as Sterling going to Chelsea. So yeah, I really like the Grealish as well. It's just that question mark over minutes for any Manchester City midfielder. Yeah. If I think that any of Foden, Mahrez or Grealish is set for at least 70 minutes a match over the first few game weeks, then I'll be all over them for sure. So currently, I guess Maddison's a little bit of a placeholder, and if I'm not convinced by any one of those City guys, or I decide to move away from Robertson and want to go Diaz, then they will come in. But at the moment, I've gone for Maddison.
Brilliant. No, I like the Maddison pick. His numbers last season were really good. I don't have them to hand, but I remember looking at them and being like, oh God, he actually performed really, really well this year. Particularly, I think, in the latter stages. Who is your third midfielder?
So gone for Martinelli here. Again, there's a slight question mark over his minutes. I do think that he will form a part of that, front three between Saka, Jesus, and obviously Martinelli. I think we don't really know who's going to be on penalties for Arsenal. There's a small chance that it could be Martinelli. It could also be Saka. It could also be Jesus. So there's a chance that it could be Martinelli, I think. Obviously, he's not far from guaranteed getting penalties, but I think there's a chance. And for 6 million,
that's all you needed. 6 million
being in that attacking or that Arsenal lineup, I think he's incredible value. He's got really good numbers from last season. Pretty much close to Saka. I looked at Saka's numbers, and for all the 8 million midfielders, across the board, he had the worst numbers for, expected data and shots and all the key metrics that you look for. Obviously, the thing that everyone likes about him is that he's nailed on and, he's going to be a very solid, reliable pick. And I do think he's a good pick, but just for me, the numbers weren't quite as, where I would want them. And Martinelli's were pretty close to him for 2 million cheaper. So, plump for Martinelli for now. But again, it's one of those picks which could easily change.
Yeah, he's one of those that every time he's picked, what I point at is this 4 game week prediction in terms of points on the My Team tool. And I mean, when you look at the prices there, we're 8s, 8, 6, 8, 7.5, 8.5, 8, 7, 6.5. So he's the cheapest, like, of the top 10 expected point scorers by some distance. He's 6 million. He's the cheapest in there, and he's third on the table. So, like, just in terms of what's expected of him versus value, he could prove to be one of the value picks of the year. Who is your fourth midfielder?
So I've gone for Rashford, actually.
Speaking of value picks of the year,
he's one of those which he's either going to flop and have a pretty poor season, or he's could potentially turn into, one of the best value picks of the entire season, I think. If you look at his previous seasons, obviously last season didn't perform particularly well, had a shoulder injury issue. Man United were all over the place. Previous seasons, though, he's done very well as an FPL pick. He scored very, very positively. That was reflected in his 9 million price tag going into last season. He's definitely got the caliber. I'm a big believer in the new manager bounce with Ten Hag coming in. He doesn't perform very well on the algorithm, and just a little insight to the algorithm, it takes, it looks at lots of previous seasons, which is why he performs okay, but it's weighted most heavily towards the last season, and quite a lot of that will be factored into Rashford not performing very well. So that's one of these situations where you've maybe got to look a little bit further than the algorithm and say that new manager bounce. Hopefully, we're going to expecting a bounce from Manchester United, and the fact that he's incredible value. And I think all of those three things will combine to make Rashford a really, really interesting pick. Which one of those Manchester United assets is going to perform well? You could look at Sancho, you could look at Martial up front, potentially Bruno. I think that he's still probably a little bit overpriced compared to these guys, but one of these Manchester United guys is going to fly out the box, and I guess I'm just taking a bit of a punt that it's going to be Rashford.
Yeah, I think I'm probably going to go without any of them until I have something more concrete, but I think first wild card, I'd be surprised if one of them isn't in the thinking, or equally one of those early transfers. They're all very nicely priced, but 6.5, 7 and 7.5 million, the three guys you mentioned outside Bruno. They could be, the types of picks where, like, in seasons gone by, we have the moment where, like, everyone pivots to James Rodriguez at Everton whenever he did what he did in the first few game weeks, or we have these moments where it's like, where did he come from? He wasn't in the meta before we went into the year. One of these United guys could be that guy. All fingers are pointing at them, so it'll be interesting to see after maybe 3-4 game weeks what the ownerships have done, if they've spiked or maybe United flop, who knows. We'll move on to your fifth pick.
My fifth pick is Neto. Again, a little bit Twitter template, and I've got to admit, when I saw him sort of appearing in Twitter teams, I was like, that seems a little bit suspect. I mean, he didn't really do anything last season, but having looked at the data, having looked at the fixtures, having looked at his preseason form, and the fact that he's so cheap, it just, it ticks a lot of the boxes, which are, the things that I tend to look at, which are fixtures and underlying numbers and value. Those are three things that I tend to go for, and Neto ticks all of those boxes. So not completely nailed in my team by any stretch of the imagination, but I do think he's a really, really solid pick.
I've probably already said this in this video because I feel like I'm saying it every week now. People want varied FPL content, but ultimately when you've got the best FPL players coming on the channel and they're all picking the same sort of teams, it should be telling you something. That's why you're watching the content, to know what team to pick in game week 1. So yeah, Neto is in all of them because of the value for what you're getting there, based on fixtures, based on preseason form. 3 goals and an assist, I believe he has, unless they've played since I last looked at his stats. No brainer. Leeds first game week, then Fulham. Yeah, 5.5 million, get in my basket. So you have 20.5 million gone up to the forward line. I imagine you're playing a 4-5-1, which means, maybe I'm wrong, but I imagine you are, and you're going to pick one of the premiums.
Yeah, I've gone for Harry. Obviously a Spurs fan. I think that being a Spurs fan actually makes me more hesitant to go for Spurs players. But look, I think I heard the stat on one of your videos actually, and I've seen it a few times. In terms of the numbers since Conte came in, he's been bossing every metric that is important for fantasy by quite some distance. in terms of the underlying data. So Spurs have great opening fixtures. Obviously, the big omission there is Haaland or Haaland. I still haven't quite made my mind up which one of those I should be saying.
I always just say Haaland. I've never even thought about it.
Oh, really? Okay,
I haven't got shit in the comments yet over it, so maybe I'm okay.
I think technically the best expression is Haaland, but Haaland himself has said that we can say Haaland, so I'm just going to go with that. And I think if you haven't got shit for it, then hopefully I won't. So yeah, gone for Kane. I think that he's like a little comfort blanket almost. I think that he's got the numbers. He's proven in the Premier League. Haaland obviously could absolutely smash it, and I fully expect him to. Just, slight question marks over early season game time, really. That's the only slight niggle when you compare it to Kane, who's, missed the 90 minutes. That's the reason I've gone for Kane. I don't think you can create a viable draft going for the Threemium and Salah. I think it just weakens your squad too much. So, and the other reason you've gone for Kane is that, got that brilliant Game Week 1 fixture. If Haaland decides to absolutely light it up in Game Week 1, then there's an obvious switch from Kane to Haaland in Game Week 2 that could be on the cards. Otherwise, Jesus is the one that, I think I've seen in a lot of drafts. He's extremely, extremely popular in terms of overall ownership. I think he's a great pick, and he has been in some of my drafts. I would say that I'm not completely convinced of Arsenal's opening fixtures from sort of an attacking point of view. Crystal Palace away, kind of a difficult defence. And then Leicester at home. Again, I know that Schmeichel might be gone, but I think that Leicester are no pushovers. From Game Week 3, it gets quite a lot easier. So, potentially I could transfer Jesus in at some point there. But yeah, currently I've gone for just Kane up front and 2 4.5 options. Overall, I think that I'm really looking to spend my budget in midfield and my back line this season. There's a lot of data now to suggest that that's where the value is. That's where, you get most value picks in the game. Yeah, I certainly think I'll probably just go with one forward. Not set on Kane. Again, it could be Haaland, it could be Jesus, it could even be a cheaper player, but currently on Kane.
For me, when I look at FPL, and it's something that's often overlooked, and I feel like I'm preaching or trying to be a life coach when I say stuff like this, but the decision is what matters, not the outcome. There's going to be variance. Whatever will be. But I genuinely believe the correct decision is Harry Kane. I do. That's just what I believe. People can disagree. That's fine. But I think based on everything we've seen, all those numbers you referenced under Conte, the doubts over Haaland's minutes, the adjusting to a new league, the drop off from the Bundesliga, Pep Roulette, I could go on. Injury records, I could go on. I think the correct decision is Harry Kane. What happens will happen. And will I get trolled if Haaland scores a hat-trick in the first week? Absolutely, and rightly so. But I think I could rest easy in picking Kane because I know the decision was sound.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's certainly not cut and dry. But I think for all the reasons you mentioned, then it does make a lot of sense. I guess the one thing is that, when Haaland came to the Premier League, playing for Manchester City with all of those ridiculously talented players feeding him and him just being an absolute goals monster, you just thought, I remember when the City signed him, it was like, there's no way this man is not going to be in my FPL team Game Week 1. And now we've come around to it and I'm thinking, he's not going to be in my Game Week 1 FPL team. I'm thinking, am I completely messing this up? So there's certainly a doubt in my mind. I'm not completely set on Kane, but yeah, looking just based on all the things you said, I am leaning that way.
I am going Kane. And well, I could burn this YouTube channel to the ground because if I come out and get this wrong, I'm going to get torn to shreds. I'll take that one in the chest. I'm going Kane. That's where I'm going. But you've got two 4.5s to pick. Greenwood and Archer are the two everyone's picking. Is that what you're sticking with, or have you got something more interesting in the? Or do you not care?
Yeah, I've gone for Greenwood. I've gone for Taylor, to be honest. I haven't really given it any thought. I mean, I don't think any of them will get any minutes, to be honest.
Substantial minutes. Yeah. This is your draft for today. Obviously, the 4-5-1. I think it's the first time I've seen it, and I've built a lot of teams through the My Team series. To reiterate, this isn't. You're going to put your final draft into that next week, so people subscribe to the channel to see Will's final draft next week before Game Week 1 goes live next Friday. But will we save this and see what team rating it gets anyway? Consider this a practice run.
Sounds good. Yeah, sounds good. I don't actually know what rating this is going to get, so I'm interested to see.
So 90%, well, 90% the rating churned out, 68.9 predicted points. I'll ask you this question. Would you take 69 points in Game Week 1 if I offered you it now?
Oh yeah, undoubted. I think the important thing is not to fall behind at the start, really. So yeah, be very, very happy with 69 points game week 1.
If you want to generate your team rating, head over to the hub site. The link is in the description. You can build your team for free and play around and see your predicted points and team rating for game week 1.